So why do 80% of evangelical Christians in the U.S. support Israel? Well, if you grew up in a U.S. evangelical Christian church like me, you may have heard something like, to go against Israel is to go against God, before you even had a shred of context as to what was going down in the Middle East. We are straight up living through a horrific time of war and of genocide. And I'm no expert on everything going down in Israel and in Palestine, but I figure it's best for me to help by speaking on what I do know well in relation to all of this. And as someone who was taught to blindly support Israel coming up, and as someone with a Master's of Art in Christian Ministries, I want to give a brief perspective of the biblical context surrounding evangelical Christian support of Israel in the U.S. So let's talk about the Bible. In Genesis 12, the first book of the Old Testament of the Christian Bible and the Jewish Torah, God makes a covenant with the father of the faiths, Abraham, and then he's known as Abram. And God tells him to go from the place that he's at and the land that he's at to the land that God's going to show him, and God's going to make him a great nation. God will bless him, and God will make his name great, to be a blessing to all of the world, right? And this land would later become Israel. And people are taught that this promise that's given to Abraham is one that's for forever. Now, this is important because if you know the Bible, you know that the Israelites are constantly conquered throughout history, and they're placed into exile, and they're longing for a Messiah who's going to reestablish Israel, the kingdom. So then, from the evangelical Christian perspective, the teaching is compounded with the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the Christian Bible, where, from an overarching perspective, the theology is often taught that the Israel of today and the Israel of the Bible are the same, and its establishment and the roles that it needs to carry out are prerequisites to the second coming of Jesus and to the end of the world. These are outlined in the book of Revelation. And I'd argue that most Christians out here don't even really know these things to this depth. They just think Israel is God's chosen people and the other people are Muslims, which is an oversimplification. It's inaccurate, and it's an expression of Islamophobia. Like, you know, they're Palestinian Christians too, right? But I digress. So it's looked at like these people are Israel's God's chosen people, and these people are Muslims, so we're going to support Israel over Muslims because our pastor said to. So now the question becomes for Christians in this country, if you do even believe and view your Bible like this, does this rationalize any form of action by the Israeli government? Like, straight up, we're looking at a death toll of over 10,000 people in Gaza right now. 10,000 people. Like, clearly what Hamas did to the people of Israel on October 7th was terrorism. Holding hostages is terrorism, and it's evil and it's wrong, all this stuff, right? But we're also dealing with the terrorism of the Israeli government and straight up war crimes. We're talking about bombing hospitals, refugee camps, a church, and we're not even discussing right now the over 70 years of occupation and widely known apartheid of Palestine as a whole at this point. Frankly, your moral conscience can't take a backseat to your eschatology, aka your belief about the end times. The ends don't justify every mean. As Christians, we are to lead with love. We're to love our neighbors as ourselves. We are to value the least of these who Christ equates himself with. And we are to stand against empty religiosity. If your God, I'm gonna just say it like this, straight up. If your God is justifying genocide, then your God is an oppressor, and you need a new God. Free Palestine. That's it.